Emile, just another one from me. I'm just noticing a lot, just looking around and seeing a lot of the players who are your age now, your Kevin Campbells have got sons that are coming through the game. Frank Sinclair have got young children that are now coming up. Andy Cole's got his son playing. I mean, I understand you've got 2 boys that are at Man City at the moment. Tell us what it's like for a parent, of a professional footballer. What advice would you give to anyone on the call here who's got a young lad in an academy or trying to get in an academy? Just tell us what advice would you give them?
Well, the thing is, there's going to be ups and downs. They're going to have their growth spurts as well. So my sons are going through their growth spurts. So always have other plans as well, whether it be your education, whether it be another club. Because look, mine are at Man City. Well, they've got a high probability they won't make it at Man City. But at some stage, they might have to make that move. But having the Man City and the coaching, because that's really good coaching on this behind them, bodes them well. Plus myself talking through different stuff and helping them on different things, bodes them well going forward. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, do you really think they should be in academy?" If they're not in academy now, they're a little bit behind, unless they're getting constant coaching from yourself or someone one-on-one, and playing in games. So I'm an advocate for actually playing games more than coaching. You learn so much from yourself playing little games, 1-on-1s, 2-on-2s, 3-on-3s, 4-on-4s, like that, than you actually do sometimes from the actual patterns of play and stuff like that, because you can learn them later on. So at times, if you're not in an academy, it could be a hindrance. But if you've been coached right, and you can show your strength on a pitch, sometimes it's, you've got longevity, because my kids train like 3-4 times, probably even more, 4 or 5 times a week. And that's tough from a very young age. But I still feel they need to be in the vision of someone in and around some academies. Yeah. Even if it's not in an academy, they need to be being aware of them.
Yeah, in and around it. Cheatham.
Just a quick question from myself, actually, and then leading on to some of the questions in the chat. The final chapter of the book is really aptly named "We Can Talk, but It's Time to Act," and that almost prepares us for some of the stuff that you've been working on off the pitch. And we touched on the player-for-player scheme that you're working on. Could you just tell us a little bit more about your role with the Leicester City women's team, and what impact you hope that your involvement with that as an ambassador will have on the wider women's game? And then alongside that, we've got a few questions in the chat from female players that are asking for advice from a female perspective as well.
So my role is I am ambassador for the club. I was going to do I'm doing mentoring, just being in around. If the girls want to, any of the women want to talk to me about anything that I've done and any advice that I can give, that's what I'm there for. And then obviously sponsorship and stuff like that, doing them sort of stuff. But then I've kind of morphed into a coach, so I'm there every day coaching. So I do tactical, well, not tactical, I do some sort of tactical, but it's more with the front line, me and Michael McConey, and then do like one-on-ones, finishing and stuff, like take finishing at the end of the sessions and everything. So I've kind of morphed into a coach now, which is good because I'm doing my B license as well. And then what was you saying?
Well, we've got a couple of females on the call, and they're asking for advice from the women's game perspective. What can they do to get themselves more visible and to improve on their performance?
More visible, again, it's attaching yourself to an actual club, isn't it? If you're not attached to a club, you can go to, I'm sure the FA have RTCs. Depends on what age you are. The FA have RTCs that you can attach yourself to, and then that attaches to a club. So as long as you're attached to a club, then you can become visible to the FA and everyone within that system. I think that's the main route of going. We have one at Leicester, which is our own academy and RTC. So we look at different girls up and down our area can, bring them into the academy, train them up, and hopefully bring them through. We have under 16s, 18s, reserves, and a first team.
Thanks. And we've had a few questions around what you could be doing next. There are a few things around punditry, because you've obviously dibbled in the media side of things. But I've actually been on a call with you over summer where you spoke about wanting to actually make a sustained change in the game and wanting to get involved more at the board level, governance level. Can you just tell us a bit more about your future plans?
Yeah, look, I'm doing the actual MIP course, which is a Masters for International Players, a UEFA course. And that will kind of help me better understand that and give me a diploma for in that. So, and that's where I think I see myself long term, because again, that's where the change needs to be made, and that's where the change, you make change for good. I've got a lot to give back to a game that I've been involved with a club level from the age of 9. So I've got a hell of a lot to give back, even though people say I haven't got any experience. Well, I don't think they did anything from 9 to 38, did they? So I think I've got a lot more to give back than a lot of people think. Give us as footballers, female and male. They don't really give us the respect that we're due, in the fact that we've been in this environment and been in this arena from since the age of 9. People are talking about grassroots. I was in grassroots. It's funny because now I'm at Leicester City Women's. I'm dealing with like the county FAs within Leicester, and a lot of them are the parents who used to take me to football. So I know all these people. So they can't tell me I don't have any experience and I don't know anyone. I haven't got no network. I know all them. So, but again, sometimes you've got to take your time and get yourself into an environment that's more willing to let you in once you've got all these qualifications they desire.
We've also got a question that leads on nicely from that, around the grassroots system and how that can have an impact on feeding into RTCs, academies, etc. What do you think needs to be done at the grassroots level to improve the game? And also from a different angle, what impact do you think we should be making on a grassroots level of representation on the pitch for Black, Asian and minority ethnic players?
The first one, what could they do? I think for grassroots, I think is funding, isn't it? We had too many pitches when I was playing as a kid. Now we don't have enough, and we don't have them enough. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't qualified then, but I think now we could actually have more qualified and better qualified coaches at the grassroots level, to enhance the chance of everyone getting the opportunity to go and broaden their horizons. Because again, like I said, we just need that experience, and we need more. I know a lot of the fields have been taken over for developments or whatever. I know a lot of them where I used to play are. And I think we need to be replacing them with adequate enough where people can actually go and play football. Because right now, we're taking all them away. What was the last one?
What impact do you think making a change at the grassroots level, from an EDI perspective, representation of Black, Asian and minority ethnics, what impact do you think it will have if we started to make a change from grassroots, rather than looking at the top level and saying we're not seeing it on the pitch?
I think we need it at every level. I think you need it on the grassroots level. When I came through, there wasn't enough, and there wasn't enough representation. There was enough players, but there wasn't enough representation because a lot of people are scared to actually go over there and go and play. And you know what abuse you're going to come up against. Go over here and go and play. You know what abuse you're going to come up against. I was lucky, and I say it to a family friend of mine. I think I was lucky because I was the only, when I first joined the club that I was at, I was the only Black player there. And then another one came a bit later. But when you go into a club and you go to play against someone and you're just 14 Black players plus a Black coach, then you know that all these prejudices come out. But again, then do you have people officiating it, watching and making a report? Because once you start doing that and you're making a report and it's coming back and you're fining people and you're telling them if this happens again, you'll never play, you'll lose your license, you'll never play, and you'll never be able to do this again. You'll soon stop, and we'll soon start then getting a more harmonious leagues and players playing in football.
Right, can we go to Emile? Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Heskey. I just wanted to ask you,
Emile.
what team have you ever dreamt to play for?
Liverpool was my team, so I dreamt to play for Liverpool, and I managed to do it, which was great. I was a fan of John Barnes. Used to watch him play, dribbling down the wing, etc. So yeah, when I got the opportunity and I knew that Liverpool was in for me, everyone else didn't matter. I just wanted to go straight to them.
And who would you love to play with, like as a teammate? Like,
Ooh, that's a good one. Do you know what? Suarez was phenomenal as his time at Liverpool. I would have loved to have played with him because he plays with so much passion. When you're watching him play, he gives 110% in every single game. And apparently he was like that in training as well. So I would love to have trained and played with someone like that because, again, he brings the best out in you. And he brought the best out in Daniel Sturridge, I thought, as well at the time.
Thanks again, and thank you. Thank you isn't enough, really. And what I like about this platform tonight is you've dedicated a lot to young people to come and express themselves, and that means a great deal. I grew up at a time where by 16 I stopped playing the game. I was at Brentford as a schoolboy, and I think one occasion I got cussed out bad by an ex-pro who came to do a bespoke coaching. Yeah, I won't name his name, but there's this thing about industrial language, you know, that happens, and as you say, you take it on board. Now, that to all intents and purposes, for a kid, they got to learn to live with verbal abuse as a pathway into the profession, and these are the sort of elephants in the room. My son, we wanted family life, so it wasn't really going to be about football four times a week plus a Saturday where you could be asked to go to Timbuktu and train from 9 to 16 or 15 to be told you're not good enough. Do you know what I mean? But every day I tell my son I stopped playing at 16 and dedicated my life to my career that I do now. Now, what is it like for a youngster age 12 to 15 or 9, emailing a club, can I have a trial, please? Can I come round? The clubs don't respond. They blank you. They say, don't email us. Forget it. We got a scout in your area. If you're good enough, we'll hear about you.
Yeah.
So for many years, we've seen that shut door policy as rather typical of the ruthless industry that football is. And we said, son, we'll go the semi-pro route. Now, through semi-pro, there's so many role models that have come through. It's absolutely inspiring. So question number one is, what kind of semi-pro footballers that came through the back door? Forget academy, this, that, and the other. They just come up the hard way and smash it. Well, who have inspired you? And question two is, sometimes you can see a semi-pro club for sale for £1 million, £2 million. All right, we haven't got that money. But would you ever consider buying a semi-pro club and bringing it up grassroots from the bottom right through to the top, where a multi-millionaire from a billionaire from overseas will buy off you one day? You become the richest bloody ex-footballer ever. So a couple of dreams, and it's really a flag to grassroots from the semi-pro side we're talking, because that's the pathway I'm directing and hoping, guiding my son to come through. Over to you, Emile. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, well, from semi-pro, you're looking at the one that springs to mind is Jamie Vardy, who got released from Sheffield Wednesday. I better get it right. Got released by Sheffield Wednesday and then had to go non-league and killed it in non-league to where Leicester paid £1 million for him. And when you're saying £1 million, you got to remember this was £1 million probably about 10 years ago, maybe even longer. So that's a lot for a non-league player. So there's different routes, and this is one thing that everyone must understand. It's not everyone just gets in at the top here. You've got different routes, different ways you can get up. You look at Ian Wright. He came into football, what, 27? I think it was 27 when Ian Wright came into football.
He was 21. He was 21. Steve Coppell gave him a bringing. He was 21, 22. He was working in a factory, cleaning toilets.
Was it 27 Premier League?
Nah, Arsenal bought him from Palace because he was upset that Ron Node said black people couldn't manage a team. So he put in his transfer. Arsenal bought him, and the rest is history.
Okay.
But he come up the hard way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So players like that all came through tough. Now, when you're talking about the buying the club, it's funny you should say that. I've spoke to a couple of people about that, ex-players getting together and doing something like that. So you never know, and like you're saying, it's not about buying a league team. It's about buying a non-league team, and bringing it up the hard way, and doing it right. Because again, we're finding it difficult for black players, coaches, ex players and coaches, administrators to actually get back on that ladder. Football's great for treating us the way that we're wonderful while we're doing well within football. But once we leave football, once your legs go, it's kind of thank you, see you later. But you're not quite good at this bit, and we've never been given the chance to say, yeah, well, yeah, we are. So it's definitely something on the radar for a lot of ex-players.
Nice. I mean, Salford is an example. Sorry to butt in, but
yeah, exactly. Something along them lines where you actually and as well. It would be nice if we could do it in an area where it's predominantly black as well.
Yeah. Tell me about the young people, black, white, Indian. They're trying to get any background. They're trying to get a club to recognize them. They send emails to clubs. The clubs say, forget it. Don't bother.
The thing is, the clubs have their way of doing things, and this is quite ruthless in the way that they do it. They're not going to change that way. They've been doing it for years, and it's not just. And don't take it any personal, because again, they do it with the councils and everything. We're the big I ams. We're earning this. You don't tell us what to do. We tell you how to do. And they do it with the councils as well. So they burn a lot of bridges in that sense, hoping that they'll just pick up that one player there, that one player there. And that one player could turn out to be Ben Chilwell. Harry Maguire, who's still, I think Barnsley probably still got a payment from him for the sell-on. So with the clubs, they have their policies, and we've just got to stick with it. And like I said, don't just think there's one way and one tunnel way of doing it. There's different channels to come back round and be on that path to where you want to get to.
I got a question. Hello, Heskey again.
How are you doing?
I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to young boys coming up through the academies or their local teams?
One thing I would say, and not many people even say it, try and enjoy your football. Football's fun. Football's supposed to be, you're supposed to love football. It's supposed to be fun. I had so much fun, and I didn't take football seriously until I was about 15, 16. I just enjoyed it. I just loved it. So try and enjoy your football, because that's when you start getting the best out of you personally. And it's not, you were talking about football here now, but it could be anything. Try and enjoy what you're doing. That's when you get the best out of you, because you love being there. And then secondly, education is huge. Because what if it doesn't happen? What if you break your legs? What if you fall out of that love, but you fall into something else? But that something else can still be within football, because all the industries that we have outside, they still need to be used inside football. So it doesn't mean that you get kicked out. No, you might say, okay, well, I'm going to go down this route. I'm going to be an accountant, and I'm going to do their books. I've got 6 players that I used to play with. I'm a chartered accountant. Now I'm doing their books. So there's always different industries that you can stay within football, but you've got to get your education as well. It's not just football.
Great advice.
Also, would you ever think of going to managerial in the Premier League?
Well, I'm coaching at this moment in time, and so I'm enjoying that side of things. So I'll just take one step at a time. Managing the Premier League, you've still got to get the opportunities. At the end of the day, we're not privileged enough to just walk into jobs.
Okay.
And also, what are your thoughts on Marcus Rashford as
wonderful player
for the community?
Wonderful player, wonderful guy. I know his mum as well. She's great, a great person, and you see what he's doing is great, because again, he's getting people to look at footballers differently and look at people differently, to be honest with you, because again, he's getting governments to change their minds on certain things that they really should be doing. And especially when it's coming from someone who pays so much in tax as well.
Hassan.
Hello again.
How you doing?
Not bad, thank you. What do you think of the VAR idea, please?
Look, football will always go down the technology route because they think that it's obviously going to make things better. It makes it cleaner.
Yeah.
So I think we're just going to have to get used to VAR. We're just going to have to get used to it again. But it's not the actual technology. So the technology actually flags something and says this might have been wrong. But then it's for the eagle eye of whoever's at Stockley Park to say, yeah, you're right, and it was offside or it was onside. So the actual in essence, it's a piece of software that tells you, Hassan, right?
Yeah.
They're saying this might be wrong. Have a look at it, please. And then you have a look at it and you say, maybe you're right. And then you have to decide. So we can't really blame VAR. You have to look at who's actually doing the actual
monitoring the VAR. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then and as well, how quickly you can do it. Because one of the problems is we're sitting there for 2 minutes after the goal's been scored and saying, twiddling our thumbs whether you can actually celebrate or not.
One more question, please. What's the big challenge you had in your football life?
You know what? Probably managing all the time you've got and using the time wisely. Like that's why I always advocate now going to school. If you've got that much time, why you don't waste it? You can be on a course and doing a lot of education. We were finishing football at 1 o'clock, so I've got the rest of the day to myself. Yeah. That's on a regular occasion. So I would say time management at times, and this is obviously like feeds into what I was saying about doing courses.
Last one. Yeah, what's the funniest moment you had in what happened to you? Something funny happened to you in football?
I don't think anything funny apart from getting the ball kicked in your private parts. I remember actually we played against for England against Italy away. Now, when you do we do a minute silence for someone passing away, they do a minute's applause. But when you do a minute silence for us, we obviously go around the centre circle, so we all huddle and we minute silencing. But over abroad, they get into your positions and they blow the whistle like we're doing when we're taking a knee now, and you blow the whistle and then you just stand there and clap. But they told me in the dressing room before, but I'd obviously forgot and went out to my position and just ran up the pitch. They're clapping. I'm like, oh no. But again, we see that all the time now with the taking of the knee, people running off with the ball.
Hello, Heskey. Thank you for this time. And you know, the first ever game you played as a professional footballer, how was it? Like, how was you feeling at the time?
Do you know what? I used to travel. I was at Leicester, and I used to travel. I played my first game as a 16-year-old in a pre-season friendly, so that's not an official game. But I used to travel. I used to travel with the first team, and it was March 1995. We went to QPR away, and about 3 or 4 of the players went down sick, and but I still didn't think anything of it. And I sat in the changing rooms that day, and what they used to do, instead of doing like shape and showing the team the day before, they used to do it at the night of the game, like an hour before the game, just reveal it. And my name was there. I think it was good that he did it that way because I could have a good sleep and I could rest, blah, blah, blah. Because if he hadn't, then I might have been nervous, etc., etc. But it was good that he did it that way. Yeah. We lost 2-0, but it was just great to get my debut. I just turned 17 now. That was in March. I turned 17 in January.
All right. Was you mentally prepared for it?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know. I just had to get myself into the zone straight away. It was, like I said, it wasn't the best of games, but I knew the good thing is I learned very quickly, and I knew that the standards was so high because I'd played a few reserve games by then. So, but I knew the standard was a lot higher than the reserve, so I needed to up my game.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
Cheatham, any more questions to field before we close out?
We've just had a couple of quick fire questions. I hope they'll be quick fire, but do you believe the female game is recognized enough? And I guess leading on from that, what do you think can happen to change that if you don't think it is?
No, I don't think it is. What can they do? Having it more visual, more advertisement. Because again, half the times I forget that the games are on BBC, on BT, etc. And then it's like, oh, the game's over. And we need to. It's same. You see it with the men's, that it pops up on your screen that this is coming on, that's coming on. I think we need a lot more to do where so it's more visual, that we can actually see that they're being played.
There's a few questions also around, again, the mental resilience side of things and being exposed to sort of social media and people's comments and things like that. Do you have any advice for anyone that's sort of like younger and looking to put themselves in a public profile position as well?
The thing is, you can turn notifications off. I don't actually go on all that. So it was funny. An influencer showed me how to put in certain words, and that so it doesn't turn up, it doesn't show up on your feed and etc. I didn't even know that could happen. So I'm guessing there's a lot to be learned and be taught by certain people to help the younger generation in if they want to be in that public eye, because it's not nice every minute someone, and half the time the person hasn't got a problem with you, they've probably got a problem with themselves, but they're just probably reflecting that on you, and you're taking the brunt of it. But that doesn't help you, does it? But I think social media training is huge, I think, because again, I was in Australia, and this is when I first got onto Twitter, I think it was Twitter. And one of the younger lads was getting abuse on there because he'd come from the FFA, which is like the academy for the Australian Academy. So he'd been an international player. He was 21, I think he was. A lot was thought of him, and he was struggling. And he was getting all sorts of abuse on social media. And they asked me to speak to him. I said, "What do you want me to say?" Well, he's struggling with this. And I said, "Well, can't he just come off it?" And that was my view of it, because I hadn't really I knew nothing about it really. Twitter, I was on it, but I didn't really delve too much into it. But a lot of the times you might have to come off it to help yourself, especially if you're going to be in that arena.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dave Regis, one of our trustees, and of course you've been listening in, Dave.
Yep.
Please share. It's been a heartwarming evening.
Yeah, great to listen to you, Emile.
Thank you.
I was actually talking about you with some of the coaches I look after the Premier League that are on a sort of positive action scheme to get more Black, Asian, and minority ethnic coaches into the professional game. I've got a question quickly while I've got you on. Is I know you said you're doing your coaching badge now.
Mm-hmm.
Question, I suppose, a bit of a rhetorical. Why didn't you decide to start your badges earlier? What was the reason for that? Was it because you felt that you wasn't going to get the opportunity, or was there another reason?
Well, the main reason was, there was two main reasons. Visual. I came into this game, John Barnes. My parents want to be a cricketer. No, I didn't want to be no cricketer. So I want to be John Barnes. I'm going down the wing. I'm right-footed, pretending to be left-footed. Running down the wing, blah, blah, blah. I see Ian Wright scoring goals. I want to be like Ian Wright, blah. So there you got your visual for someone to aspire to be like someone. And then you see the coaching side of it. You're like, well, where's the next step? I'm finishing, so where's the next step? What do I do? And then you hear the horror stories of, I've had 25 interviews and no one's even called me back.
Yeah.
I said, what's the point?
I hear you.
Honestly, what's the point? But then you think to yourself, let me have a little go. Let me have a go. And then you're saying, okay, can I come in and coach? Well, where's your badges? But he doesn't have his badges. He doesn't have his badges. They don't have their badges.
Yeah.
But you're not privileged enough to be in that arena because you don't have the network to say, all right, then let me come in and just try it out. So I went and got my badge, and then I was lucky enough to get on the. Susan Whelan was fantastic. It allowed me to be the ambassador for Leicester, and that would allow me to be in and around football, so I could do some sessions and get my badges. And then Jonathan Morgan says, well, can you come and do a bit with us? I said, well, yeah. And then it's just, I'm there all the time now. I've kind of morphed from an ambassador into a coach. So, but it's been good. And that was basically it, because again, what's the next step? Who's going to be the next person? And at the minute it's Les. Who's going to be the next person to look up to? Oh yeah, I could be an executive. I don't necessarily have to go and kick a ball about. Look at Les. Look what Les is doing. I can go and get my education and go and do this, be in and around that environment, and strive to be the next Sir Les.
Yeah.
So for me, it's all about visual, because again, like yourselves growing up playing, I watch all you guys and I'm like, yeah, I want to be where they are.
Yeah. I think there's an important message there, Emile, and one that I certainly followed. I realized that my opportunities to coach, and I did my coaching very, very early. I think I did the old prelim when I was 19 in London. And thought I would like to get into coaching, but very quickly realized that, opportunities weren't really going to be afforded to me. Obviously, watching my brother not really being able to forge a career in the game after the career he's had. And whilst we have to have those that are still willing to put themselves into that position and hope that they're going to get the opportunity, I decided that actually, we need to be visual in other areas of the game. And that is really the kind of message that I adhere to say to a lot of players from the minority groups. There are other areas of the game that we need to be more visible. Yes, we have been players and very good players, and we can be coaches, but there's so many other areas of the game where we need to affect and be seen. So yeah,
but again,
good luck with everything
Dave,
you're doing, Emile.
Again, Dave, I think you getting your badges would help you in them different areas as well, because
absolutely,
like for argument's sake, you might be higher up, but you can look down at the coaches and say, well, you haven't done that. Maybe you could do this. Maybe you can do that. I've coached, played, I've done this. I've been in the changing room, so I know what it feels like to do this and do that. To have a look at it a different way. And that helps. And that's probably where I'm coming from as well, of getting my badges, doing the coaching, and probably looking at a ladder to go even higher up to say, look back down and be forging a proper environment that kids can prosper within. Because again, we talk about they are kids, and they're our kids that are going to be, it doesn't matter what color they are, they're our kids that are going to be in there. You've got to forge the right environment for them to prosper within. And they might not become players, but guess what? They could become admin. They could become a physio. They could become the doctor. They could become this. They could become that. But we've got to make the right environment for them.
I mean, this is such an important conversation that we're having. That Emile, Dave, we need to do this again, and we need to do it because there's so much more we can go. I mean, Emile, the last time I saw you was out in Grenada, and I had to take that route. I became the national coach out in Grenada, and sometimes that's what we need to do. I know, Emile, you've done some work yourself in Antigua. Sometimes there is a route going back out the other way to come back in. So, but get the qualifications. Don't just leave it there. Stokely, I can see you have a question quickly. We're going to let you in, Stokes. Where are you? Turn your mic off, mate.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Stokes.
Hi, Emile, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure. and it's been very informative. So my question's around the whole diversity, but also you've touched on it, and Dave actually touched on it just a moment ago about the purpose. And in terms of mentoring, do you think that they have appropriate mentors for the cultural diversity within clubs? So you talk about football having a family, but it's kind of, that family is quite narrow-minded. When you have a mentor as a centre forward or a midfield player or a defender, you may have someone who isn't culturally aware of your development or your background or your way of reading the game and how you understand performance levels. How do you feel about that in terms of clubs?
The clubs are.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Dave. Dave, you speak, sir.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that you, Stokely Sawyers, or not?
It is.
It is me.
How are you doing, my man? Long time.
Very well.
Well, I try to spread the message around the academies. You go into any academy now, and there are an abundance of black players in particular, and because of the systemic, I suppose, racisms and policies that are kind of in place inadvertently to prevent us from becoming coaches and managers, the clubs are missing a trick, without a doubt, because a lot of the coaches in the clubs, predominantly white, don't understand black players. And if there are more black coaches and mentors around to give these players the support, you know, a lot more of them will be understood rather than misunderstood and get better opportunities and want to stay in and around the game.
Yeah, and that's how I feel. I mean, Emile touched on it about purposeful training. So when you're a striker, you're learning to hit the back of the net. When you're a midfielder, you're looking to find passes, etc. You know, and in terms of purposeful mentoring, you need someone who understands where you've come from and, you know, the journey that you've taken to get to where you are and how you can then navigate going forward. And it's not, you know, if it's a white person or an Asian person or it's a black person, they may not be the right one. But yeah, that was my question, if that could be. But Dave, yeah, you answered it quite well. So quick one, last one. Emile, in terms of getting your book, how can I get a signed copy? And this isn't everyone.
I'm sure Otis will be able to sort that out.
Yeah, we'll get it.
Otis can't forge your name, brother.
No.
Okay, bless.
Right.
No,
and listen, folks, you're going to be hearing a lot more from Stokely because he's agreed to come and do some podcasts with us in this whole area. So it's great. We're getting all our professional buddies together. You know, we played in the game, we're giving back now, and this is a fantastic way of doing it. Now, Cheatham, would you just like to say your closing comments before I read us out?
Yes, thank you so much for your time, Emile, and everyone else's engagement and the great questions that we've had. It's been another great evening. I'm going to copy and paste all of the lovely comments that have come through, and I'll share them with Otis, who can also share those with you. But all the best for the future, and have a good evening, everyone else.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's fantastic. Okay, Otis, and then I will close out with a couple of passages from the book.
Good evening. I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you so much for Emile for giving his time. A wonderful player. I remember watching him as a young player bursting through the scene. And as Jason's alluded to earlier, we used to say, you need to be like him. Explosive, quick, strong, skillful, purposeful. But here we have him today, finished his career, looking at next steps. I used to work in a community department of a football club, and sometimes you see players who give back, and some players who probably don't know how to give back, but players who actually don't mind going the extra yard to give back to the community. And thanks, Emile, for coming on tonight. Also, I want to say thank you to everyone that's logged on to whether we're doing around football, whether we're talking about health, diabetes, prostrate, all important messages around this time. Please do follow us. Please do leave your email address, because we will be having many more conversations like this served up in the next couple of months as we are in this difficult period. But I'd just like to say thanks for everyone for tuning on and being so patient. I know we didn't say to Emile it's going to be an hour and a half. Thanks for staying on. We've nicked a couple of 15, 20 minutes off you, but thanks for doing that. We will have some competitions around winning some signed copies of his book. Please do take a look at his book and read it. I can't thank you guys enough for following and supporting the foundation over the last couple of years and months, and do look out for future posts that we'll be doing. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, Ho. Emile, been fantastic, buddy, and great that we're going to be, you know, hopefully we get to do this again and we get to talk about some other things, and we see you as a regular. Now, I'm going to leave the last two things to Gerald Houllier and to Martin O'Neill. Gerald Houllier first. I have to say this: how can you criticise someone who is recognised and respected by the whole of his profession? He achieved so much in his career and he deserves to be recognised. He belongs to the circle of players who scored more than 100 goals in the Premier League. Martin O'Neill. Emile Heskey fulfilled his boyhood ambitions by becoming a top-class player at the very highest level. He has a footballing CV of great distinction. I now have the privilege of writing these words as a foreword to his autobiography, and all of the memorable experiences we shared. I still hark back to that rainy night in Wolverhampton where this precocious teenager lit up Molineux and in truth never looked back. Thank you, Emile.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.